show, an informative show,
Madrid,
with people from all over the world discuss politics, current events, entertainment. It's the Leon Charney Report.
Hi, I'm Leon Charney, and this is Leon Charney Report, and today we're honored to have with us one of Israel's most famous writers. His name is Avraham Yehoshua, and I'm sure you've seen his books. They've been translated into English and probably 1,000 other languages. He won the prize for literature, the Israel Prize. It's, I guess it's the highest prize you can get in the state of Israel for literature. Everybody in Israel knows him. As soon as he puts a book out, everybody reads it. He should be a rich man. I don't know if they pay enough in Israel, but it's a pleasure to welcome him on the show. He's also a prolific mind in terms of what is happening politically in Israel. I guess he would call himself a social democrat, which means a little bit on the left. But we'll get a good analysis of what's happening in Israel from Avi. Avi, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You lift our intellectual morale here. Sometimes, I don't know if we had some great novelists like you here yet. We usually have political figures, comedians. Maybe you can fill in for both. Huh?
This is what is missing in America, that, a generation of writers who could speak also about, political events, about ideological events. The writers are now becoming a part of the show business and not anymore standing on the moral question. If you are discussing any question, you are going to a lawyer and not to a writer. This is not so good.
Who are your list of 5 or 10 great novelists in the world, the people that you would admire?
I will admire Marquez, for example. Garcia Marquez, he is still a great novelist. I would speak about Kundera also as a great novelist. Günter Grass, with all his problems, is a figure that can say something meaningful to Germany, even though it can be very harsh. Solzhenitsyn was a great writer. Unfortunately, he is in silence in the last years, but he was a very, very important man for the freedom of Russia, and he saw the dismantling of the Soviet Union. All these are figures.
Tell me, with the immigration of the Soviet Union, the Russians to Israel, has it changed any of the literary aspects of Israel?
The literary not yet, because they don't know Hebrew, but the musical, the painting, the art, because this is a very, very cultural immigration in society, and there are a consumer of art, and you see already in the music they have done tremendous things. You know the joke when there is a Russian going out of the plane without a violin, you say this is a pianist, and there are some of them who are doing teaching in the Arab village as musicians, and this is extremely wonderful to see them introducing music to the Arabs.
Well, culture, very few people understand this, but culture is a big part of Israel's society.
Yeah.
We did a show at the Haifa, whatever they call it up there, was
Symphony.
We did the symphony. They had a klezmer, a woman playing klezmer. But you couldn't get a ticket. The place was sold out. And I believe they do operas up there also. And
yes, we have the opera, and really a serious opera in Tel Aviv, and in each city you have a symphonic orchestra. A city like Be'er Sheva, a city like Haifa, it's not a big city, and the distance between Haifa and Tel Aviv is 1 hour, and still there is a orchestra only in Haifa and a theater. A repertoire theater that is doing plays in Haifa, and this is unbelievable.
Your new book, Open Heart?
Open Heart, yes. Open Heart, in singular.
And it's been translated and it's being sold by Doubleday, that's your publisher here?
Yes.
All of your books have been published in English?
Yes, most of my books were published in English, and most of them were done here in America by Doubleday.
So what is the theme of your new book, Open Heart?
The theme of the book is, it's told by the first person. It's told by a doctor, a young doctor that has about 29. He is about 29, and he is a bachelor, and he is very much preoccupied with his career in the hospital. He's working in a surgical department in a hospital, and he doesn't know if he will be given tenureship in this department or will be thrown away because he is now only finishing his stage. And then, more or less, the head of the department doesn't want to give him tenureship. And then towards the end of his term, he is asked by the administrative director of the hospital to escort him. He's going with his wife to fetch back their daughter that is sick in India. And the first part of this book is a voyage to India done by this doctor who is escorting the director of the hospital and his wife to fetch this young lady who is there. And his parents are pushing him to this journey, and the head of the department is pushing him to this journey, especially in order to get him a little bit out of his, little concern about what will happen in his future in this department. And then he's going to India, and this is a short voyage of 2 weeks only. And then there he completing even a kind of a medical mission to save this young woman, but he's falling in love not with the sick young woman, who is also beautiful, but with her mother. And here there is a kind of a description from then on, a description of a impossible love between him and this woman, who doesn't know in the first place what to do with this love of this young man, and himself doesn't understand, and he has a lot of sympathy to her husband, who is the director of the hospital. And then I don't want to tell all the story, but this impossible love almost finished by his committing suicide, but in the last minute he is saved. It means saved by himself, by the positive elements that are in himself. But I would say that India is a kind of an electric shock to a frozen psyche, that from this on, all his emotional system has taken a kind of an, as I say, electric shock, and from that on, the story is starting.
Have you been to India?
No, I haven't been in India. And I didn't want to be in India. I was consulting a lot of guidebooks and manuals and things like that. I didn't want to be in India because I wanted India here to be in a kind of a fog and not to be, I would say, loaded with too much details that perhaps will I will be directed in my description to give too much of India. But the problem was not India, but this man who is catching India from exterior view, but still getting all this emotional, I would say, shock.
The book is Open Heart. It's written by A.B. Yehoshua, one of the most critically acclaimed authors to come out of the state of Israel. Everybody talks highly of him. You can talk to the Village Voice, the New York Times Book Review. He's written about 10, 12 books. We'll get into how he puts these things together, and then we'll talk a little bit about politics, because he's a very famous man, and he's worldwide. How many languages have you been translated into?
16, 18, something like that. I don't remember.
Do you speak them all?
No, I speak only English and French.
We'll be back after a commercial break to continue with A.B. Yehoshua. And the book is Open Heart. You can buy it in your local bookstore, and I suggest you do, because this is a talented man, world acclaimed. We'll be right back. We're back. We're speaking with A.B. Yehoshua, who's just written a new book called Open Heart. He's critically acclaimed author, winner of the Israel Prize. I would say one of the most famous literary figures in Israel and probably in the world. People everywhere you go will know the name A.B. Yehoshua, Amos Oz. This is the cadre of very famous authors. A man named Grossman is also in that bag. And these 4 or 5 gentlemen, whenever they put a book out, they sell immediately. Now, in Israel, this book has sold about 85,000 copies. And I know from people that I speak to in Israel, as soon as he writes the book, it's out and it's done. How long does it take you to write a book, Abi?
It's about 3 years, I would say. 3 years, yes. And it's not too much, I think. You can. There are books that you have to devote for them about 5 or 6 years. But you are going in a long journey, and you have to examine at least after a year or a year and a half. I take a piece of what I'm writing and show it to friends, and I get reactions in order to know if I'm going in the good track or I'm going to a bad track.
But basically, you have a deep message in all your books. What is your message in this book?
In this book, it is a book about the question of the mystery in love and the way in which you understand, I would say, expected falling in love or unexpected emotion, and how you try to understand, or I would say to domesticate mystery. And because I am very much attached to psychoanalysis, my wife is a psychoanalyst, and generally we are working in novels in this framework of the psychoanalytic terms. But here in this book, I try to push a little bit further, and the love of this young doctor to this woman who is not so beautiful at all, and she's married happily with her husband, as he has a lot of respect to her husband, and why he is falling in love that is distorting his life in a certain way. And I try through the book that this mysterious falling in love will be explained, but not only in the traditional psychological or psychoanalytic terms, but in more complicated terms.
All right, what is chemistry in love? Do you know? You don't know.
I don't know. But generally, I know that when people are falling in love and afterwards they get married, and they discuss the first meeting that they have done between themselves,
right,
you see that in the first meeting they caught the entire personality of each other.
I agree with you. You know why? And I'll tell you an interesting statistic. I'm a lawyer. And years ago, I used to do divorce cases. And what I used to do is go back, when these people would come to me for divorce, I asked them, tell me about that first encounter.
Yeah.
Because if it was really good, the marriage stood. If it wasn't good, and they said, well, I thought he was good, and maybe I'll put it together, maybe I won't put it together, but he has this, he has nice earrings, he has money, he doesn't have money. It never worked, it was over.
Yes.
So yes. I believe in that theory totally.
Yes, in this first encounter, you see a lot of things. And afterwards you discover little by little that what you have seen. So this is the mystery of falling in love, that is always a kind of a riddle, and because there are so many people that are saying, if I was not there in this moment, in this room, what would happen to my life? It was by accident. It wasn't by accident. You had chosen a certain formula, and you could find it here. But if this lady was not there, you would find this same formula elsewhere.
You believe in destiny?
Not so much. But I believe that there is a kind of mazal, what they say, luck, and the luck is helping destiny.
Are you married for a long time?
Yes, for a long time.
So you had good luck.
Yes.
How did you become a novelist, David?
I was in the Boy Scouts. When there was parties, I was writing for them, humoristic sketch. And this is what I started to write, something a little bit fantastic and something with a lot of imagination about what the events it was in the last week or in the last 2 weeks. And then I was reading it to my friends, and according to the laughter and according to the reaction, I saw that I got a kind of a relationship with and I would say sensibility and capacity with the words, and this is how I develop. And this is the reason why humor for me is very, very important. This is the basic element for a good novel.
And basic element for survival.
For survival in general.
Were you in the army, Amy?
Yes, I was in the 50s. I was in the paratroops. I was in the Sharon missile brigades and the Sinai campaign and all these things.
Have you wrote any novels about the war?
No, I didn't write any novel. And it's quite bizarre that in Israel, if you're not writing a novel about a war and immediately afterwards, there is another war that erased totally the other war. I think, for example, the 6-Day War. There was some writers who have written, and then those who didn't write a novel about the 6-Day War, then there came the Yom Kippur War, and I wrote something about Yom Kippur. The Lover is a novel that some of the events are connected with the Yom Kippur War. But after the Yom Kippur War, you didn't see any novel about the 6-Day War. The Yom Kippur War had changed totally the scope and the perspective of people.
Changed the atmosphere in the country too.
Yes.
Because 67 you were victorious.
Yes, and Yom Kippur was
in a sense,
half a lose. Even if it was, I think it was a very successful war from the point of view of its military. I say the comparison between the 6-Day War and Yom Kippur War is, if the 6-Day War is an exam given to a student who had prepared himself for 2 months, and he got the exact question that he was expected, and he got 10. He got the higher mark. But the Yom Kippur War is an exam that the student didn't know he is going to the exam, and he didn't know any of the questions, and he got 8. The 8 is more valuable than the 10s of the first student.
So from a military viewpoint, the Yom Kippur War was better. Talking about lovers, do you think Yitzhak and Rabin and Yasser Arafat were lovers when they touched their hands on the White House lawn? I was there, by the way.
Yes.
What do you think?
I don't think they were lovers. I think it was a great moment because this was historical, done by two people. They were representing their people. And Arafat and Rabin, they are two totally different kind of a person. You cannot imagine from the point of view of the character, the point of view of the way of thinking. I would say Arafat and Peres are more close in their conceptions, their way of thinking, political things. Rabin is totally different from Arafat, and then they have to shake hands, and the shaking hands is between the Palestinian people and the Jewish people and the Israeli people. And I think this was a great moment because this was a moral moment, a moral of legitimacy that each people give to another.
We're having some intellectual fun with A.B. Yehoshua, one of the foremost authors, novelists in the state of Israel, won the Israel Prize, and has written a new novel called Open Heart. And it talks about open heart surgery. It's a story of a young heart surgeon. I think I know his name. We'll be right back. We're back with A.B. Yehoshua. As I said to you before, he has written a new book called Open Heart. You've probably read some of his other books. They were called Lover, Mr. Money. Everybody says great things about him. If you don't want to know what the New York Times says, it says A.B. Yehoshua, one of Israel's world-class authors, expands his horizons in an inventive new novel that causes time and borders. It is literary tour de force that broadens the author's vision and the novel's boundaries beyond Israel. New York Times. We don't have to go further than that. You'll be reviewed in the New York Times for sure. Does it mean anything to be reviewed in the New York Times?
It means, but I would say my literary context is Israel. I always say I will sail 2 good reviews from the New York Times and the Washington. I will trade them for a good review in my country. It means not because I don't have them, but because this is, the context in which you are judged and you will remain. Generally, a writer is judged and will remain in his language, in his national patrimoine, in the national tradition.
84,000 books in America is a bestseller. And we have about 200 million people. You have 5 million people, and you said 80, what's that, 1%? I mean, it's an amazing amount of the population.
It's amazing, because Hebrew literature is not both only as literature by the Israeli, but also a source of their identity. especially secular people.
Interesting.
Yes, so they are fitted. You know, a lot of Israelis here in America are very much attached to Israeli literature, and they are coming to buy Israeli literature. So they forget all about Israel, all their business is here, but still they are dragging with the Hebrew literature. And it is important for them when ideology were crashed and finished, people are feeding their identity, creating their Israeli identity by literature. And this is the place of and the role of Israeli literature in the...
What is considered a bestseller in Israel? How many books? 20, 30,000?
20 it's already bestseller. It's already bestseller. Because 20,000 is about a quarter of a million here. Because we are a small society.
It's 10 to 1.
Yes, and we are, and you have to know that when you think about 4 million readers, we don't have even 4 million readers, because there are at least, we have many immigrants. My mother did not read my books in Hebrew, because she was coming from France, and for her, the language of reading was French. And she could not read my books. It wasn't a pleasure for her to read in Hebrew.
And do you write in English too? You
No.
translate? You have a translator.
I have it also.
And in French?
Also.
Translator. And the same one all the time?
From time to time there are changes. It's not the same.
It's very important, that translator.
It's very important. I had a very good translator in English all the time. This book was not translated by him. His name is Hillel Halkin. He's now working on the foreword. But I said, enough of translation. I would like to work as a journalist. But I think I will bring him back to the next book again. But Dalia Bilo was doing a good translation.
Ephraim Kishon. An anomaly or a great author? I mean, he sells in Germany. He's one of the great writers of Israel in a very, I guess, contemporary time. But he sells in Germany. It's unbelievable. He's so famous in Germany.
Yes, but in Israel, it's been unfortunately he complains all the time that he's not known. It's not he's known in Israel, but he's not considered as a writer. He
doesn't get the recognition.
Yes, he doesn't get the recognition.
And why is that?
Because we see him as doing sketch, not serious literature. We cannot consider him as a writer in his own ground. I don't know. He has a complex relationship with Israel. In the time he has done a very serious work as humoristic, but not as a writer. But he wants something more. So he sells a lot, millions of books all over the world, and still he is unhappy and complain all the time and crying all the time. Why in Israel he is not considered as a writer?
It's really a funny situation. Yes. Define literature. What is literature?
Literature is the way to transmit, to make you partnership in experience. You can read a reportage in the newspaper in which you will be told to do many things, and you can agree and you can think this is right and things like that. But this is totally different from a literature, because in literature I want that the experience of this doctor will be yours, that you will feel him from inside, that you will become shaky and afraid and gay and love, and that you will fall in love with this lady. So the problem is to transfer human experience to the other. And this is an art by itself. You can do it good or you do it bad. You can do it with serious stuff, with serious experience. We can do it in a very superficial kind of experience. So for me, literature is not good literature. Literature is a genre of writing. In this genre, there can be good literature or bad literature, like in good journalism or bad journalism. But whatever this intention is seen, this is literature.
Herman Wouk, good writer?
He's a good writer.
Historical novelist.
Historical novelist. He was doing this. I respect what he was doing. It's not a very profound writer, but he is giving a kind of a scope and integrating material from many sides, and he was doing a fine job. This is not a classic because he doesn't touch the most profound, like Faulkner, like Hemingway. In a certain way, Faulkner for me is the best of the best. But let's say, as O'Connor, as Updike, as Solbello, as others who are great writers. So Herman Wouk has his place, but this is... You have to know, if you don't demand for him what he cannot do, you can respect him and you can enjoy his work.
Bellow was very deep, wasn't he?
Yes. Bellow was important because he was intellectual and he was mingling his intellectual thinking with the experience, and he was doing from this a unique stuff.
Would you consider Wiesel a novelist?
No. It means he was writing a novel, but I think his novels
are... It's not literature.
It's not literature. It's literature, but his power is not in literature. His power is as an orator. His power is as a man who was bringing the memory of the Holocaust in times, and I remember in the 50s, but nobody wanted to hear about the Holocaust in America. Wiesel was going as a wandering lecturer from one place to another to speak about it. And he was bringing and keeping the memory of the Holocaust that afterwards the American jury has done from this a cult.
So it's outside of the literature.
It's outside of literature.
He got the Holocaust to be remembered.
He was doing it in I would say essays and in especially speeches, because the way he speaks is marvelous, because he knows how to touch, and he was doing integration. But a pure novelist, he was doing novels, but I think this is not his best part.
Does your book sell in Germany and Japan?
Yes, in Japan no, but in Germany and in France and in Italy and in other places.
It sells well. Germany is it's a big market, isn't it?
Yes, but I don't like to go to Germany, so I don't do promotion there, and I don't like to do... I am very much attached to France as a second homeland in a certain way, because I spent my 4 or 5 years there and we study there, and in Italy and in other places I feel more familiar with the German. It's a little bit difficult for me, but it's my books are there.
We'll be right back with A.B. Yehoshua. You may have seen some of his books in film. We'll talk about that for a minute. We'll do a little bit of politics. He has some staunch ideas about how Israel is going to look or should look in the future, and I think it's important. We'll get into the literature of Mr. Arafat and Mr. Peres and see if you want to feel like they feel. We'll be right back. Don't leave us. We're back with A.B. Yehoshua, the world-famous, critically acclaimed Israeli novelist who's written a new book called Open Heart, and the man has sold a lot of books in his life. In Israel, you get on a waiting list right after they announce that his book is for sale, and you stand and you wait, because from year to year people wait, and I've talked to many Israelis, and they tell me he is the greatest. And I told you before, there's a group of 3 or 4, and they are really the literary a cadre of Israel society. It's the little bit older generation. Are there any young authors coming up in Israel?
Yes, they are young, but they are doing a little bit different kind. They are doing postmodernism, not at all involved in, in ideological or political problems. They are out of all this game, and I'm a little bit sorry, because I think that still we need writers that will be a little bit more than just writers, but also some sort of a moral figures, or at least directors to some of the big issues. We had a tradition, I said all the time, Zionism was created by writers. Herzl was a writer.
That's true.
Lodo was a writer. Jabotinsky was a writer. It wasn't created by leaders, not by rabbis, but by writers. Because only by imagination they could, I would say, jump through the reality to imagine something that can be heaven.
Good concept. Have you met Ben-Gurion?
Yes, I met him when I was a student. I've done a small work for him, private work for him.
Was he a great prophet?
He was he was really great, and now more and more people appreciate how big he was, how clear he saw the things. Of course, he was living in a different kind of era. I don't know what he was. He didn't like this television. He doesn't like at all television.
He blocked it in Israel.
Yes, he didn't want it. He wouldn't turn. He was saying, and perhaps he was right. He was saying, you hear the radio, it's sufficient. Of course, I cannot expect from him something that he would not know about modern time. But he analyzed the situation very clearly, knew exactly where to put the border, how not to exaggerate in demanding. When after the 6-day war he was saying, this is what we have, we have to give back all the territories, but Jerusalem, and he was thinking about the Golan Heights because he didn't believe that one day Syria will be ready for peace, but he would say, this is enough, we cannot do here a kind of a binational state, it will be a disaster, it will be the destruction of the Jewish state.
Did you know Moshe Dayan?
I knew him. I knew him because I knew well his daughter, and Moshe Dayan was a great lover of literature. And he likes my works, and I was trying, and he was very important in the days, let's say, between 67 and 73. And I was thinking that here I can perhaps influence him. And he was listening when I spoke about Palestinian state and things like that. He was very much a kind of an artist in his way of thinking, but he was disastrous, I think, in the way in which he was thinking that this combination of holding the territories and having them in the same time, not annexing them, all these...
Couldn't make a clear choice.
Yeah, excuse me.
Golda Meir.
Golda Meir was a tough woman.
I think she was a political disaster.
Yes, I think so. In the times of the 70s, when she was standing like this without any willing to compromise and understand at all the Palestinian issue.
Or the Egyptian issue. I visited Golda Meir in 1972 as an aide to Senator Hartke, and we talked about the possibility of peace with Egypt, and she dismissed us.
He dismissed.
Simcha Dinitz was sitting on her left side, and I forgot the name, her Yal Kadar or something, her secretary, she dismissed the idea. She says, we're more strong, we're more powerful.
Yes.
Boom, the next year you had the Yom Kippur War. But she was a great lady in terms of being a symbol for Jewish people and Jewish women, but as a politician, I think it was a disaster.
Yes, after the 6th War, she has done her good job. She has done as a Ministry of Labor. She was very good as a foreign minister, but after the 6th War, she was completely out of, seeing what is the future and how to do the future. Because even if she was thinking that one day we have to compromise, she didn't want to do the compromise herself.
Shimon Peres.
Excuse me. Shimon Peres has done a great change. I remember him from the 70s when he was really thinking like Moshe.
He must be a great fan of yours because he loves to read books.
Yes. He's a great fan, and he is very good with intellectuals. He gives them the sense of liberty. I have to say to his honor that when in the time of the 70s and in the beginning of the 80s, when we were different of point of view, he was always keeping his friendship. And when I was saying in the television, in the newspaper, totally ideas that were opposing his conception, he was always listening, and he would never say you cannot be a friend or how can I associate with you. On the contrary, he was all the time honored by being associated with writers and people like this.
Menachem Begin.
Menachem Begin was really a special figure. I have once met him, but...
You didn't know him well?
Huh?
You did not know him well?
No, I didn't know him at all.
Did you know Ezer Weitzman? Not very well.
No, not very well. Not very well. I think that it's not good for writers to know politicians too much. When they are in opposition, it's okay. When they are coming in power, better get detached from them.
All right, where do you stand now on politically? What do you think should happen? There should be a Palestinian state?
Yes.
And do you think, what should Israel do with the Golan?
Golan has to be returned to Syria against a strict security measures, with I think United States has to help with an international force in which at least for 20 or 25 years, as they are doing in Sinai, people are forgetting that there is a U.S. force in Sinai.
No, I know, I put it there.
Yes, so you know about it. So something I said to guarantee, but we have to put Syria also in the peace process, because without Syria all is not completing, and always these forces who are opposing war can rely upon.
All right, what do you see with Jerusalem? Maybe
Jerusalem has to be divided into three parts. The old city.
We're going to get a lot of letters on this show.
Old city has to be out of any national sovereignty, but only on religious sovereignty. And the three great religions can do a marvelous thing of this 1 square kilometer. This 1 square
That's
kilometer.
all it is?
This is 1 square kilometer. This is all the old city.
Go ahead.
With all the same places there can be done together as the cradle of monotheism. And Judaism, of course, has to be the leader because we are the most ancient faith. But this, we have to be proud that Islam and Christianity was coming from our belly, if I would say it like this, and we can do a kind of a Vatican, or you call it Datican, I will call it Datican. And then, of course, the Hebrew section with all what was annexed can be remain. Of course, this will be the capital of Israel, and as it is today. And the Arab quarter can be, for the first, let's say, 10 or 15 years, a kind of a cultural, autonomous Palestinian quarter that will be regarded as the future of a kind of symbolic element of what we call the Palestinian also presence in Jerusalem, and there are about 200,000. You cannot dismiss them.
And the West Bank?
The West Bank has to be returned has to be the Palestinian state, and the settlement can remain there as a Jewish minority inside the Palestinian state. I don't want to remove the settlement, and I think as we have about 1 million Arabs, Israeli citizens inside Israel, the Palestinian can have about, 80,000 Jews living in Israel with double nationality, and the Palestinians are agreeing for this, and I think the settlers are agreeing, and I don't want them to be removed from the West Bank.
How popular do you think this theory is with Arik Sharon, your former general?
How
popular do you think this theory is with Arik Sharon?
Arik Sharon, I don't know what.
Do you meet him at all from time to time?
No, I don't meet him. It's not at all my cup of tea. I don't think so. I think Arik Sharon, if he was embraced by the Labour Party, he would join them. He's not a revisionist by his ideology. He is only a kind of rejected from the Labour Party who was joining the Likud. But from his deep heart, he is member of the settlement, he's member of the other.
Tell me, you think a lot of Likud people buy your books?
Yes. And
they do,
people, yes, yes.
Because they're also lovers.
They are lovers, and the lovers of literature, and this is what I like in the Israel, that whatever you can express your opinion, and when the tough time with Begin, I was always invited to army officers to speak. Yes, never there was a censorship.
No censorship.
No censorship, and in the Likud, I think, and I say to the benefit of the Likud was even better in promoting democracy in Israel than the Labour in the time of Begin.
Because Menachem Begin believed in that.
Yes,
very strongly.
He believed in democracy and he was giving it.
And believe it or not, Benny Begin also does.
Yes,
he has very harsh views or different views than you have.
Yes.
But he would believe that you have the right to express yourself.
Yes. This
is the credit of Israel.
Yes, this is the true liberals inside the Likud, and this you cannot take from them. And I respect them totally for this.
So 10 years from now, A.B., when you're writing your 55th best novel and the movies are being produced by 20th Century Fox and you win the Nobel Prize for Literature, what is your country going to look like?
I hope it will look better from the point of view that this will be a cultural country, a lot of culture, a lot of science. This is our capacity, and there will be more social justice because we are a little bit enlarging the gaps between social layers in the society. We have a lot to do, but at least this will be a country in peace.
A.B., we're out of time. It's been a pleasure. You've just heard A.B. Yehoshua. His book is Open Heart. He's one of the true intellectuals of Israel. He's world acclaimed. And what he says is taken to heart by a lot of people. I know a lot of you are going to disagree, and some may agree, but this is also democracy. So we're glad to have you on the show. We hope the book does well, but more importantly, we hope your theories bring peace. And if your theories don't bring it, we hope peace comes in any case. We have an exceptional book that's been written in fiction. I think the first time it's been attacked in fiction. by Thane Rosenbaum. It's called Elijah Visible. It's published by St. Martin's Press. And as I said before, the same editor who brought you The Secret War Against the Jews, Bob Weil, has brought you this book. And we consider Bob Weil one of the finest editors in the world. So, Bob, if you're listening, your ears will burn. Thane Rosenbaum is an interesting character. He was doing very well at DeVois Plimpton, which is a very highly rated law firm. Probably 30 years ago, they might not have Jews there even, I'm not sure. He was editor of his law review. He had a great career going. He gave it all up and became a writer. Now, I don't know if his parents had anything to do with that, but they were deceased, I believe, when that happened. And he came up with this very well-received book. And we're going to talk to him for a couple of minutes, more than a couple of minutes. Welcome to the show, Thane.
Thank you, Leon, for having me.
I'm a lawyer. Why would you give up a career in law?
Well, but you have all these other aspects to your life, too.
Long hair?
Right. Well, the long hair I haven't seen on you yet. Although I'm sure you look quite attractive, actually.
It's coming.
Well, for me, writing fiction, it was almost an immutable truth, almost inevitable. As a child of Holocaust survivors and someone who felt very silenced and as a child in connection with the relationship with my parents.
Why were you silenced?
Well, there was a lack of expressive opportunities. My parents really were suffering from a great deal of psychic pain, and yet at the same time there wasn't a great deal of expressive opportunities to discuss it. And frankly, I think that there was so much psychic and traumatic undertones in connection with their wartime experiences that I was oftentimes afraid to know, and they weren't all that receptive.
Where are they from originally?
From Poland and in Germany.
And they were in the camps?
Both my parents were in concentration camps.
Did they survive for a period of time?
Both have survived. My father actually was a partisan after having escaped from a concentration camp, and had then lived in Germany for a few years, and then met, I think, in Germany, and then came to the United States.
And your book is a book of fiction. Has there ever been a book like it?
Well, what's I think unusual about this book is that it explores the narrative possibilities of the Holocaust from the standpoint of the second generation. My understanding, that's never been attempted. As someone, I also teach courses on the Holocaust, and I think that there's always been an enormous resistance to reduce any of the Holocaust events to any fictional possibilities, largely because the event is so terrible and the enormity of loss is so great that there is this temptation only to deal with it in its historical memoirist.
Doesn't Elie Wiesel do that in a lot of his books?
Well, yes, that's true, but never from the standpoint of the concentration camps. With the exception of Tadeusz Borowski, a Polish writer who had written the book Ladies and Gentlemen, This Way to the Gas. There's really no attempt to do that. This book, what's different about it is that it's really not about the Holocaust, but it's really about the aftermath, the legacy of the Holocaust. It's the thought that the Holocaust in many ways has never been thought of as having created dysfunctional lives, not just in the survivors themselves, who, with all due respect to, is Mr. Orbach, is that who you just had here? I mean, I think he's a remarkable man because I think...
but the daughter is like you. She's the daughter of a survivor.
That's correct.
I have a theory, Thane, that I went to a school, my roommate was a Holocaust survivor, and I have a theory that for the next 100 years, no one will know the ramifications from generation to generation. I believe, like you do, that obviously growing up with Holocaust parents has a profound effect on the way you grow up, and maybe even your children, it'll have an effect because obviously the way you grow up. And I don't think anyone who tries to categorize it, and I've said it 100 times on this show, I think they're up a blind alley. We just don't know.
No, I think that's quite right. I think that that's one of the criticisms, although you hear it very rarely or sparingly about Schindler's List, and that is, and somehow it's sort of perceived as some magic formula to understanding the Holocaust. And I think the idea that it's sort of a signature film about the Holocaust is really a folly because you can't understand the Holocaust.
That's what I say.
It's right.
It is not understandable.
It's incomprehensible. It's as a fact of history and its legacy. The best that we can hope for is to try to interpret it and to try to preserve the memory of it. But any thoughts of being able to answer the question about the murderous capacity of individuals to kill fellow human beings is just beyond our grasp, I think. And I think that so in Elijah Visible, these stories, what we're really seeing really is the aftermath, the legacy, the psychic traumas, the nightmares, the genetic link that links children of parents who had survived the Holocaust, and linking them not just through some sort of disembodied familial way, but psychically, that there's something passed through the veins, a real understanding of the trauma, of the nightmare.
Do you feel a special camaraderie with children of the Holocaust?
It's interesting. I don't, although I've written this book, and although I think all of my fiction is intimately related to Holocaust-related themes, and although I teach a humanities course on the Holocaust at the New School for Social Research, I'm not someone who has embraced a community of people like myself. I've in many ways been very unaffiliated, both in my spiritual connection to Judaism in some ways, which this book also speaks to, the generations' dilution of faith, but also just even to children of Holocaust survivors. I'm really not, and I don't have a real principled answer for that either.
But there's a fascinating aspect to your life, that your wife, who's not Jewish, wrote an essay about the Holocaust when she was how old?
Yeah, this is really the truly remarkable thing. Susan, when she was 15 years old, living in a logging community in the Pacific Northwest where there were no Jews.
How did she get to that?
It's hard to explain. I think that in some ways...
And how did you get to her?
Well, she moved to the United States and lived in New York, and that's my fortune. But I think that in an interesting way that maybe some people believe, and I'm starting to think more of the possibilities, that when 6 million souls are vanquished in an instant, that they have to go someplace. And I think that she feels in some strange spiritual way, not one that you can really explain, that perhaps she had adopted somehow the soul of a Holocaust victim, because there is no other way to explain the fact that she has always had this deep connection to that loss and to the tragedy of that experience.
You have a child now.
That's correct.
When your child grows up, how are you going to explain the Holocaust to your child?
Well, it's interesting. I think that in some ways I'm unqualified to do it, because the attachment, the connection is so deep, the emotions are so deep. I'm really hoping that Susan...
But you teach it.
I think that's right, but I think that I want my daughter and I want future children of mine to not be as traumatized by that history, to be able to sort of embrace it in a way that is much more healthy than in a way that, for me, it is consuming.
What is healthy about the history of the Holocaust?
Well, I want my family to not be paralyzed by it. I want there to be a sense of movement, of forward movement, of moving on.
So basically you were paralyzed by it.
I think that in some way, although I think that it might not have been recognizable to people who grew up with me in Miami Beach, Florida, I think that it was inevitable that, and that's one of the reasons why I think this book was inevitably had to be written, that the experiences of my parents were processed in my mind in a way that created a tremendous sense of vulnerability, a tremendous sense of fragility of life. I was...
And they became very protective of you?
Well, actually, in my parents' case, it was the opposite. They were very aggressive about my ability to take care of myself. I think that they felt very strongly that in many ways, the principal character in this book, Adam Posner, grows up in an environment where his parents are almost partisans of life. They understand how fragile existence is, and they want their child to be safe, and that their whole relationship to him in many ways is preparing him, bracing him for their inevitable death, so that he grows up in an environment rather than being given any sense of parental security.
It's a contrarian view of Holocaust survivors, the way I know a lot of children of Holocaust survivors, and they're very overprotective and very nervous about the security of their children.
I think that they felt that, but I think they wanted me to be prepared for the worst experiences.
I think what you're doing is very important for a reason maybe you're not going to say, but I'm going to say it for you. I think you went through a lot of pain. I think a lot of these children did go through pain, but they brush it aside and they don't want to take it out. What you've done through your novel here is taken it outside and really opened up a new Pandora's box, or a new box, so that people can really understand that it's not so simplistic. Because I know a lot of children of the Holocaust, I know a lot of media people and they don't want to recognize it. I mean, they just want to gloss over it and pass over it. But at night they have that pain. Many times I've traveled with people, and sometimes I'll slip a Jewish word to them. I don't even know they're Jewish, and I'll say something in Yiddish, and all of a sudden I'll get a response. I said, "Where do you know Yiddish?" Well, my parents were Holocaust victims.
Wow.
And it's staggering, but they brush it over. Their names have changed, and it's all different. But you can't. It's affected you.
Do you think it's an actual different level of masking than just regular assimilation?
Yes,
You think
absolutely.
It's a special kind of
Absolutely.
assimilation?
Absolutely.
I think that's interesting. I've never heard that, but I think that's probably true. That because Jews in this country have lamented the ongoing dilution of faith, the changed names, the changed identities. But your point may be a good one, that the pain here is so great that it may even cause even a further level of masking.
Not only that, an embarrassment if they had an accent.
Yeah.
They didn't even want to bring it to the parents because they had an accent. They didn't want to open that level of life. They wanted to foreclose it, close it up, and lock the key and throw it away.
Yeah.
And I think your book is an opening and a breakthrough.
Thank you.
And it's an important book.
Thank you. On some levels, I think it was an attempt to make sense of my life and the lives of children of Holocaust survivors. I also tried, in some ways, to open up a new level of narrative possibilities for understanding the Holocaust told through its generational line, because I think most attempts at the Holocaust speak to the event itself, and in many ways what we're trying to do here is speak to the next generation, the aftermath.
All right, relate to me, how does Israel figure into this Holocaust?
It's a really interesting question. I think that Israel has done from the very outset a phenomenal job of using the Holocaust to its advantage. The world of European Jewry, the shtetl Jewry, was in many ways erased, was considered a shame by Israelis, even changing names back to Hebrew names, a certain sense of strength, invulnerability, the new Jew, the strong Jew.
You know why you're right? Because at 1:15 in Israel in the early 60s and 70s, they used to play cantorial music, and I'm a cantor. And no one who was young in Israel wanted to listen to that. They gave it 15 minutes on the broadcast.
Right, I think.
Now it's because they wanted to forget that whole thing.
Yeah, I think there was an attempt to look at the Holocaust on two levels. One, to show the ongoing vulnerability of the diaspora Jew, and that there needs to be a place for Jews to call home. And secondly, to also speak to the weakness of Jews, a certain kind of contempt for European Jewry and their lack of ability to fight back, which is just not even true. But I think that Israel has historically used the Holocaust in a way to speak to legitimize the moral imperative of why there must be a Jewish homeland, but also to speak to a certain level of aggression, a certain level of needs for there to be a Jew that is invincible, that is strong. And I think that the Holocaust has served both ends in that way.
And what's your feeling about the Holocaust Museum in Washington? Have you been there?
I actually have been there. And I have very complicated, I teach courses on the Holocaust, and for those former students of mine will probably chuckle when they hear this. I actually have very conflicted feelings about the Holocaust Museum, Schindler's List, because I think the point I raised earlier, that there's an attempt to simplify it, to create some level of understanding of something that is ultimately incomprehensible, that's ultimately something that, and just the attempt to give people a feeling of that you are there, or this is what it was, and that's not possible. But at the same time...
Not everybody's intellectual.
Right.
And everybody can be touched by it.
Right. No, I think that's right, and that's why I'm conflicted.
So it's massive,
On the one hand, you want to serve memory the best way you can. And the question is, for the 6 million who were killed, do these symbols, whether they're museums, whether they're monuments, whether they're memorials, whether they're films, whether they're books, do they do the outrage, the madness, the death, the carnage, do they do it proper justice? That's one question. The other question is, how else can you do it? How do you do it? It's almost an impossible solution. Do you do nothing? Do you just leave it silent? If you leave it silent as the proper level of memory, the proper level of acknowledgement, then how will the people you're talking about ever find out about the second generation, the third generation, the fourth generation? It will become an archaic event, something that no one ever understands or ever knows about.
All right, we're out of time. We're not going to leave it silent. You're going to read Elijah Visible. It's by Thane Rosenbaum. It's an intellectual approach to Holocaust, the child of Holocaust parents. It's a must-read. We'll see you next week with hopefully happier topics, but this is an important one.